Proiectul Rețeaua de biciclete electrice este cofinanțat de Uniunea Europeană prin Fondul European de Dezvoltare Regională în cadrul programului Interreg 5A România-Bulgaria. Conținutul acestui material nu reprezintă în mod necesar poziția oficială a Uniunii Europene.
The starting point of the tourist routes in the project for electric bikes is the city located in the outskirts of Vidin. Being quite large, this park situated on the very bank of the Danube was created in 1878 and is inspired by the tradition of English parks. From place to place there are sightseeing points over the Danube, while the park offers the natives an excellent refuge for recreation and entertainment. Baba Vida Fortress, located right on the Danube bank, is the only entirely preserved medieval stronghold in Bulgaria. The current name Baba Vida comes from a legend about the local leader's daughter. Initially it was a military fort during the Roman period. The fortress was used to defend the city territory during most of the entire medieval era. It was enlarged and strongly fortified during Tsar Ivan Stratsimev's time, most of the constructions built then being preserved so far. It was the strongest citadel of Vidin, being called the Virgin Fortress by the Turks, as it has never been conquered by force. It is formed of a 5,000 square meter bailey, with 2 main walls and 4 towers. Round the exterior walls there was a moat with a drawbridge at the gate. The atmosphere and the specificity of the old times were preserved when the construction was restored. Today the fortress is a museum, being open to visitors. It is the main tourist landmark in the region of Vidin, being included in the 100 national tourist objectives of the Tourist Union in Bulgaria. The synagogue of Vidin was built in 1894 on an older Jewish temple site destroyed during the Russian-Turkish War of Liberation between 1877 and 1878. The construction, which is the second largest in Bulgaria after that in Sofia, was made with donations coming from the local Jewish community. The main facade was once really impressive. The central entrance has a semicircular shape, supported by 2 columns with high pedestals. 4 towers with vaulted windows, built in pairs, had originally stained glass and fine railings. Since 1950, the building has no more been used for its initial purpose, which led to a state of advanced degradation that we see today. Osman Pazvantoglu Mosque is a Muslim place of worship in Vidin, erected between 1801 and 1802. It is a massive stone construction of Oriental architecture. What distinguishes it from the other mosques is the fact that there is a heart instead of a crescent on top of the minaret. Next to the mosque is a library where there are preserved rare Turkish manuscripts. The whole building complex was partially restored in 2004. Close by, we find St. Nicholas Church, built in 1926. This church belongs to the complex of the Metropolitan Church of Vidin, which also comprises St. Panteleimon Church, the Metropolitan Residence, and the Mausoleum of Antim I. The cross-shaped barrack is an impressive construction built at the request of Osman Pazvantoglu in 1801 for the needs of the Ottoman army in Vidin. It is unique due to its perfect cross shape, having an area of about 1,200 square meters. Between 1965 and 1967, the building was renovated and changed into a museum within the Regional Museum of History in Vidin. Continuing our tourist route, we reach Rabisha, where we can stop at Magura Hotel Complex. It is a modern place with all facilities, located in a tourist region which is frequently visited. The complex has a main building, a few bungalows, an excellent outside swimming pool, but also a bar and a restaurant. Close by, we can visit Magura Cave. This is one of the largest caves in Bulgaria, the total length of the galleries being over 2,500 meters, with a constant temperature of 12 degrees Celsius. Truly unique are the prehistoric drawings on the walls of one of the galleries, representing hunting scenes and human figures, made between 3000 and 1200 BC. The cave is the National Tourist Landmark number 14 out of the 100 National Tourist Objectives. On May 3rd, 1960, the cave and the surrounding area of 71 hectares were declared natural monuments. Coming out of the cave to the north, we find Rabisha Lake. This is an inner lake of tectonic origin, being the largest in Bulgaria. The lake has almost no storage basin and does not drain. There is a dam on its western side. The lake and the entire area offer ideal conditions for water sports, kayak, surf, swimming, but also it is a favorite place for amateur fishermen. We reach then the region of Belogradchik, where in the outskirts of the town there is a wonderful complex of rocks, stretching from west to east over more than 30 kilometers, on the bottom of an ancient sea. The rocks represent yellow-reddish sculptures, some over 200 meters high. Time and rough weather shaped unbelievable forms, while human imagination gave them interesting names, shrouded in legends. Inside these rocky formations we find the fortress of Belogradchik, declared a cultural monument of national importance. The fortress was built while these territories were under the Roman rule. and the Roman builders used to their advantage the natural rocky formations, so that they had to build walls only in the northwest and southeast, the other parts of the fortification being formed of the natural rocky massives of over 70 meters high. At first, the fortress was used only for observation, not for defense. When Bulgaria was occupied by the Ottoman Empire, the stronghold was conquered in 1396. The Turks enlarged the fortress as there were frequent uprisings of the locals in the area. Some important changes in the citadel structure were carried out at the beginning of the 19th century, when European elements were added due to the Italian and French engineers that took part in reconstruction. The walls are 2 meters thick at the base and up to 12 meters high. There are 3 separate baileys linked by fortified gates, and the total area of the fortress is over 10,000 square meters. Leaving the stronghold of Belogradchik, we can stop in the middle of the town at the Ethnography Museum, located in an old traditional house built in 1810, known as Panov House. Since 1950, it has become an ethnographic museum, exhibiting over 8,000 items of a great cultural and historic value. Our journey continues, passing through the same full of charm region, scattered everywhere with unique and interesting rock formations. A suited place for a well-deserved halt is Madonna Inn, located on the way between Belogradchik and Montana. It is built in the local traditional style, with 3 floors and many large and cool rooms, surrounded by a huge yard, where it is a real pleasure to dine or just relax among the flowers and shaded trees. Going further in this mountainous region, tourists can visit Lopushansky Monastery. It was built on the foundations of an older monastery raised ever since the Second Bulgarian Kingdom, and then destroyed during the Turkish invasion. Between 1850 and 1853, Lopushansky Monastery is brought back to life by 3 monks from Chiprovtsi called Dionysia, Gerasim and Gedeon. In that period, there was a school in the monastery. At the same time, the monastery was a center for organizing the fight for national and ecclesiastical liberation, being the favorite place of poet Ivan Vazov, where he wrote a part of his novel, Under the Yoke. Another famous monastic establishment in the region of Montana is Plisovsky Monastery, whose patrons are Saints Kirill and Methodiu. It is an Orthodox nunnery founded in the 13th century under the patronage of Vidin Diocese. During the Ottoman occupation, it was repeatedly destroyed, being completely restored at the end of the 19th century. It is a wonderful green place, an ideal halt for the tourist longing for peace and spiritual joy. Going to Montana, we come across Ogotska Lake in the outskirts of the city. It is the second largest artificial lake in Bulgaria, with an area of 24 hectares. The construction of the dam lasted for 20 years, being finished in 1986. Fishing here has been allowed since 1999. The ancient Roman fortress of Montana is located on a hill called Caleto, in the southwestern part of the city. It seemed that initially there was a stronghold of the Thracians here, dating from the late Iron Age, though there were found traces of some dwellings even from the Stone or Copper Ages. Following recent archaeological excavations, there were discovered towers, defense walls, barracks and other buildings from the Roman epoch in the 3rd and 4th century AD. The name of the settlement Montana appears and is preserved in documents dating from the 2nd century AD. Montana's economic and cultural development in the Roman period between the 2nd and 4th centuries was interrupted by the Gothic invasions in mid-3rd century. The fortress is destroyed in the 6th and 7th centuries after some attacks of the Avars and Slavs, being rebuilt as a Slav settlement. The archaeological complex of Roman origin called Lapidarium, one of the most important and beautiful monuments of the historic past, is located in the park situated in the middle of the city. Having an area of about 700 square meters, it is a real outdoors exhibition, being exhibited 56 monuments here from the Roman epoch that have been discovered in the region. There are some marble plates with inscriptions which are the only written sources of the history of the city before the 2nd and 3rd centuries. The plates represent descriptions about the visitors of the city, the troops of the army, praise for the emperors, as well as the names of many military personalities and important people. Other plates present interesting information about the life of the population in that period. Close to Montana, in a picturesque mountain region, we can visit Verchet's Resort, a real oasis of relaxation, situated in a landscape full of vegetation. One of the most wanted hotels is the ATA Spa Hotel Complex, which offers all the facilities necessary for spending a few days of rest and entertainment, having attractive tourist packs for everybody reaching here. Arriving in Wraca region, we visit an area with important natural attractions towards the Iskar River Gorge. We can admire the wonderful limestone rock formation called Ritlita, near Ljutobrod village. These rocks reach up to 80 meters above the river, being between 3 and 7 meters wide, over a length of about 300 or 400 meters. A lot of vegetation, mainly hardwood, grows between the rocky walls. These rocks were formed some 120 million years ago, when the whole region was covered by the sea. On the way, we can have a look at the memorial house Baba Ilitsa, located in Chelopech. She was a local heroine who supported some of Hristo Botev's rebels, saving their lives after the lost battle on Okolchitsa summit. Continuing our journey through the picturesque gorge of the Iskar River, we halt at Cherepishki Monastery. It was founded during the Second Bulgarian Kingdom under Tsar Ivan Shishman's rule, but it was destroyed in the Ottoman invasion. It was restored in 1660. Having as a patron the Assumption of the Virgin, this monastery is a holy place for Christianity and Bulgarian traditions, with a long history full of thrill. The monastery is located at the foot of a mountain, which has hundreds of caves. It was declared a cultural monument of national importance. There is also here a favorite terrace of writer Ivan Vazov, where he wrote his work, A Bulgarian Woman. Passing through Mezdra, we stopped to visit the fortress situated on a hill at the edge of the town. The fortification seems to have a very old history, being identified here traces of life since the Copper Age, being a certain thing that there also existed a heathen temple here. The settlement developed much in the Roman period and then in the Byzantine one, but later the Slavs and Avars came and conquered the whole region. During the occupation of the First Bulgarian Kingdom, the fortress was called Torbaritsa, being completely destroyed by the Byzantine Emperor Basil the Great in the 11th century. It was conquered back by the Bulgarians and then again demolished by the Ottoman conquerors in the 14th century. Today, the whole archaeological complex is in good shape, due to a restoration in 2013 being possible to be visited by every tourist passing by. Located in the middle of a modern and well-arranged park, Ledenica Cave is the main attraction in the area. Situated some 16 kilometers away from Vratsa, at an altitude of 850 meters, in Vrachansky Balkan National Park. The cave was called Ledenica from the Bulgarian word leden, which means ice or ice cold. The cave has been known ever since the Ottoman occupation. Due to its constant low temperature of about 8 degrees Celsius, the natives used it to preserve the eggs of the silkworms and the shepherds the sheep's milk. The cave has a lot of galleries and interesting karstic forms, stalactites, stalagmites and columns formed over thousands of years. It is about 320 meters long and it has 10 halls. The first hall is the lobby, where a huge ice column of about 21 meters wide rises. Then there is a passage of a few meters where people have to stoop, and you reach the small hall, which is almost round. After another narrow pass, you reach the Great Hall or Concert Hall. The visitors can watch here a fascinating show of laser lights projected on a water screen. At the same time, you can visit God's Bridge in Vratsa region. It is in fact a wonderful caustic phenomenon in a special place made of a 20 meters high and 25 meters wide stone bridge. The opening of the arch is between 9 and 12 meters. As its existence couldn't be explained in the past, the local population created the legend where certain supernatural forces built this bridge, and that's why it is now called God's Bridge. Really impressive is the fact that inside the tunnel between the walls there are rocky columns that support the smooth ceiling, while the cracks in the walls make them look like a mosaic. There is a small lake under the bridge arch, while on the bridge walls, at about 10 meters high above the bases, there are small caves where bats hide. Reaching Kozloduy on the Danube bank, we can halt in Botev Park, a town park on the place where in May 1876 Christo Botev and his revolutionaries got down the Radetzky ship. Botev started his 120 kilometers way from here to the summit of Okolchitsa in the Vrachansky Balkan Mountains, where he died. There is a high stone obelisk in the park, erected in 1936, with the inscription, "He never dies." Docked at the riverfront is the Radetzky ship. This passenger ship, built in 1851 in Budapest, is an important mark for the Bulgarian history, as it was used by the Bulgarian revolutionaries led by Christo Botev to cross from Romania to Bulgaria. Between the 16th and 17th of May 1876, the Radetzky, heading for Vienna, makes a lot of halts in the Romanian ports. Dressed as casual passengers to deceive the Turkish agents, Botev's men, led by Botev himself, got on deck. Once on the Danube, they hand the captain an ultimatum asking him to moor at Kozloduy. The whole group got down on the Bulgarian land and started the revolution under Botev's leadership. Today the ship is anchored in a specially arranged port for it, being restored and working as a museum of the revolutionary movement. Kamaka Fortress is located on the western side of Oryakhovo town, on a high hill that offers perfect visibility. The fortress was built in the 9th century and it constituted an important border outpost. The construction, of an irregular shape, was very solid, being built the old way with large stones bound with white mortar and a network of wooden beams to straighten the masonry. Only a 9-meter-high corner tower is relatively well preserved nowadays. The next district where we continue our journey by bike is Pleven. On our way to Nikopol, in Gigon village, close to the Danube bank, we can visit the ruins of the ancient town Ulpia Escus. This was a Roman town built in the 1st century AD on the foundation of a Thracian settlement. It was the military camp of the 5th Legion Macedonia. The total area discovered by the archaeological excavations is of 28 hectares. The first researches in the region were made between 1904 and 1905. Later, between 1947 and 1951, the archaeologists find a great public building, and in one of the rooms, one of the most beautiful multicolored mosaics in Bulgaria. Following further excavations, there were discovered very important data about the location, form, dimensions, development, fortification system, street network, public and educational buildings, economic life, culture, religion, and funerals of the local population throughout the ancient period. Once in Nikopol, on the hill that dominates the panorama, we visit Shishman's fortress. The citadel is well fortified, having an important strategic position. The Nikopol fortress is mentioned for the first time in the Bulgarian apocryphal chronicle in the 11th century. In the last years of the Second Bulgarian Kingdom, Ivan Shishman moves his residence here, abandoning Turnovo. Besieged by the Turks in 1393, the fortress holds. 2 years later, in 1395, the Turks succeed to conquer it through deceit, using Bulgarian ships that enter the port and shoot at the fortress. In 1396, the Hungarian king Sigismund besieged the fortress without success, being unable to liberate it from the Turks and being defeated on the 16th day of siege, when Sultan Bayezid I arrived here. Only in 1810 the fortress was conquered by the Russians at Marshal Kutuzov's orders. In the outskirts of Pleven, which is the residence of the county bearing the same name, we can relax in the middle of a wonderful park, full of vegetation and bathed by the water of a lake. The Kailaka Park is declared a protected site. It has an area of 1,000 hectares, and it offers the inhabitants and tourists a remarkable combination of possibilities for walking, rest and recreation. It has artificial lakes full of boats and paddle boats, swimming pools, hotels, bars, cafes, restaurants, playgrounds for kids, courts for different sports, and even a zoo. You can see here practically at any hour or day people walking or practicing sports, parents with children, young and old people enjoying the nature. Another point of tourist interest of a great historical importance is Skobelev Park. This park bears the name of the Russian general Skobelev, and it is dedicated to the Russian and Romanian soldiers that died in the battle for liberating the region of Pleven from the Turkish occupation in 1877 and 1878. It was founded in 1904 and has some 120 hectares, being situated on the very battlefield south of the town. While riding on the well-designed alleys, you can see weapons, a few memorial monuments, and most importantly, the Panorama Museum. This is a singular museum built in 1977 for the anniversary of 100 years from the liberation of Bulgaria from the Ottoman yoke. It is also included in the 100 National Tourist Landmarks. The impressive building has a huge collection of weapons and military equipment which render the fights of the war, these battles being presented realistically by means of combinations of paintings, plastic arts and sculpture. Tsarevets fortress was the main Bulgarian stronghold at the end of the Second Bulgarian Kingdom between 1185 and 1393, when Turnovo was the capital of the kingdom. During the Middle Ages, the hill where it is now was totally covered with civil and administrative buildings. The construction of the fortress starts in the 12th century, being preserved almost intact even today. The fortress has 3 entrances, the main entrance being in the western part of the hill. The defense walls are impressive. The Palace complex is located in the central part, representing an ensemble of administrative constructions surrounded by interior stone walls, 2 towers and 2 other gates in the north and south. The restoration of the fortress begins in 1930 and it is finished in 1981 on the occasion of the anniversary of 1,300 years since the Bulgarian kingdom appeared. Arbanase village is an old settlement located some 10 kilometers from Veliko Trnovo. Arbanase has a rich history full of interesting facts and events. It is renowned for preserving the genuine traditions, the village having a particular charm due to its narrow lanes with its 144 well-kept old houses, churches and monastery. The settlement was set up by Bulgarian landowners in the 14th century, who came with their serfs from western Bulgaria after the victory of Ivan Asen II at Klokotnitsa. Later, during the Ottoman domination, the village was under some local Ottoman rulers. Today, tourism is the main activity in the area, as a lot of visitors, mainly from Western Europe, are welcomed with hospitality in the traditional Bulgarian taverns scattered all over the village. One of the most beautiful places you can visit on your way through the region is Kaya Buna Waterfall in Hotnitsa village. If you succeed in visiting this waterfall, you will certainly be unable to forget the beauty of the place quite soon, or the water rushing down the steep slope of the mountain. Kaya Buna Waterfall is one of the most impressive creations of nature in Bulgaria. The water in the lake in front of the waterfall is turquoise and crystal clear. In front of the waterfall you can lie on the grass, the whole place being surrounded by the high walls of a rocky canyon. There were arranged ecological paths in the area with many small bridges and ladders dedicated to the lovers of mountain adventures. Nicopolis ad Istrum is the name of an ancient Roman town whose ruins are close to the Yantra River, near Nikiup village in Veliko Trnovo district. It was built between 106 and 110 AD by the Roman Emperor Trajan to honor the victory against the Dacians in the battle near the Istrum, the Latin name of the Danube. Similar with any Roman settlement, Nicopolis ad Istrum had a square form with 4 gates oriented towards the 4 cardinal points, with streets crossing at a right angle, parting the town into districts. The main square was surrounded from 3 directions by columns in Ionic style. It was a rich and flourishing town, a proven fact by the multitude of building traces we can still see today, by the fragments of statues and other urban decorations that embellished the squares and streets of the town. You can visit one of the most beautiful caves in Bulgaria called Orlova Chuka in Rusa district. In 1963 it was declared a national landmark, and since 1978 it has become a cultural and archaeological monument of national importance. The name of the cave is linked to the rock above the entrance, as the rock was a shelter for the eagles in the region. The entrance of the cave was accidentally discovered by a shepherd, Stoyan Spasov, in 1941. On a hot summer afternoon, he noticed that his sheep gathered at a particular place. He went there to check, and when he went over a crack in the rock, he felt a cooling draft. He moved a few stones and discovered the entrance of the cave. There were found in the cave remains of bears, spear tops, flint tools, axes, and pieces of pottery, which show that the cave was inhabited by people a few thousand years ago. The total length of the galleries is 13,500 meters, and they have stalactites and stalagmites, or columns built by millions of water drops for thousands of years. Saint Dimitrije Basarbovsky Monastery in the rock is located on the Rusensky Lom River Valley, close to Basarbovo village. The monastery was built during the Second Bulgarian Kingdom, but it was documentarily attested for the first time in the Ottoman tax registers of 1431. For a period of time in the 19th century, the monastery was empty, but in 1937, Father Crescent established there, and the holy place was brought back to life. Basarbovsky Monastery is the only functional abbey dug in the rock in Bulgaria. The path entering the monastery passes through a beautiful and full of vegetation yard, and it ends into the well dug in the backyard. There is a terrace clung to the rock above the monastery where you can reach by climbing 48 steps. You can reach on another stone staircase to a natural cave where Father Crescent was buried, the man that started the rebirth of the monastery in 1937. We continue riding along Bulgaria and reach Silistra district. We can hold here overnight in Serdika Hotel, where there is a stand for electric bicycles offered to the tourists. Srebarna Biosphere Reservation is situated 2 kilometers south of the Danube, near Srebarna village. It includes Srebarna Lake and its surroundings, that is about 660 hectares. 22 rare species of plants and animals live here that are vulnerable or endangered with extinction, according to the European Red List of plants and animals endangered globally, and 149 according to Bulgaria's Red Book. It is a real show of nature to be able to watch the water birds and their natural habitat, while the pelicans are among the usual guests of the area. There are arranged ecological paths around the reserve, with watchtowers and watch sites. A host of species of trees and plants grow here without man's intrusion. In 1983, Srebarna Reserve was included in the list of the World Cultural Heritage, being a natural UNESCO landmark. Downtown Dobrich, we go to visit the Outdoor Museum of Ethnography and Architecture, which is on the place where once the old bazaar was. It preserves and presents traditional crafts of the Danube and Black Sea region at the end of the 19th century and the first half of the 20th. These buildings of the old bazaar shelter now craftsmen that continue century-old traditions, who use the old technologies and original tools. In the middle of the complex there is an old clock, made in the 18th century, which is the symbol of the town. The whole complex, represented by the Palace of Balchik, located on the Black Sea shore, was built at the initiative of Queen Maria of Romania in 1937. The construction lasted for 11 years, being started in 1924, when the Queen came first to Balchik and remained delighted by the beauty of the place. She lived part of her life in Egypt, where she adhered to the Baha'i religion, which promotes equality between religions, sexes and races. Thus, this complex of buildings blends many of the cultures and religions of the world, with Oriental, Roman, Muslim and Christian influences. It seems that the Queen's idea was to create a copy of the Garden of Eden. That's why we find here an impressive variety of plants and floral arrangements of great beauty, all watered by a stream and a spectacular waterfall. Kaliakra Cape is a narrow peninsula situated in Bulgaria's easternmost point, which advances some 2 kilometers inside the Black Sea. Nature is really raging here, and the show of the waves that continually break up on the high top of the cliffs is a matchless attraction for anyone reaching the place. The shores are steep, of 70-80 meters high, made of limestone and clay, rich in iron oxides which give a reddish color to the soil in the area. Kaliakra Cape is a place full of legends, starting with that of the 40 Bulgarian maids, who preferred to plunge from the cliffs than to be taken in slavery by the Turks. Returning to the historic reality, a great sea battle took place here during the Russian-Turkish War between 1787 and 1792, more precisely on August the 11th, 1791. Following this battle, the Turkish fleet had to withdraw toward Istanbul. A small chapel dedicated to St. Nicholas was built here in 1993, being raised right above the sea waves. Yaylata National Archaeological Reservation is a place spelt by the charm of history, where archaeological ruins and nature blend. The constructions are located on a marine terrace of 30 hectares, separated from the sea by massive cliffs of about 50-60 meters high. There are various monuments on the reservation from different historical epochs. There are dwellings dug in caves from the 5th century BC, 101 being identified so far, some even used also as graves. There are traces of ancient altars and sacrifice stones, while in the northern part we find a small Byzantine fortress erected at the end of the 5th century. During the Middle Ages, the caves were sometimes used as churches or monastic rooms. This place is a real historic picture of the whole region, starting with the primitive epochs, then the ancient era, the Roman and Byzantine epochs up to the present day, representing a real homage brought to the historic and cultural heritage of the land between the Danube and the Black Sea.